And now we've got the key ingredient that WoW might get back. Yeah. And this is your baby, Matt, so take us away.
So, you know, whenever you play World of Warcraft, and everything you do is kind of new. And you're kind of like, wow, oh, cool, oh, nice. Oh, I'm in a new zone. Oh, look, I stepped over the boundary of this threshold, and now the entire skybox is different. And everything you did felt new. Kind of like when you were a child, and everything you did felt new. And when you went to play World of Warcraft, you played for like 6 hours, and it felt like you're there for about a month. Or even when you played for like half an hour, you're like, I remember every detail vividly. And now you log into World of Warcraft, and you blink, and it's 7 hours later, and you're like, what the fuck did I do? Did I even get loot? Where am I? And you're just there, and your legs are numb because you've sat down. There's like 17 cans of Pepsi or Red Bull, or 17 glasses.
Hopefully not 17 Red Bulls.
17 glasses of water, or 8 bags of crisps or whatever. Just you're like, where'd my day go?
Yeah, you're like, thank fuck there's not a mirror in my room. I don't want to see myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you should keep a mirror in your room at all times. A lot of that comes down to, now this is a theory of mine. I think it's maybe fair enough to call it, more than a theory because it's a real lived experience. Novelty, right? The concept of novelty of something is novel. It's new. It's an interesting experience. That literally in your brain is like a thing that happens. That's not even like some sort of weird pseudoscience. Is literally a novel experience of something that directly impacts your brain chemistry.
Yep.
Directly triggers a dopamine release. And that has been linked to memory and well-being and other such things.
Good things.
And that's a thing that comes with generally in video games. It's like, that's where, that's why a new expansion feels really good. You're doing everything new. That's why a new dungeon comes out and it's great. And that's why doing a new dungeon feels better than doing the same dungeon you've done, even though it's like, the same gameplay, right? You're still pressing your buttons in the same way. You're still dealing with mechanics that you've kind of done before, but it feels better. That's novelty, and World of Warcraft has no fucking novelty because it's Mythic Plus loops and do the same raid 4,000 times. That's it. That's where novelty has gone. So, let's see if we got it there. Yeah, so this is a video, right? And I thought it was, like, this isn't what sparked this off, but I was just kind of looking around for, like, has novelty been figured out in games? Have people thought about it and talked about it? And this is by a channel called Designing For, which I'd never, like, heard before, or heard of before. And they talk about Galaga. And this was, like, the first video game that understood... You're right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first video game that understood novelty. Because obviously, Pong it's Pong. Space Invaders, here's some aliens come down. The aliens come down over and over again, that's it. But this actually had new enemies come that had a different challenge. It had these things called challenging stages, which were like specific stages that were more about fun and more about spectacle.
Yeah.
More about, hey, look what we've got for you. Look at this. This is really cool, interesting. Play different sound effects. So your brain was literally going, new. Oh my God, new. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm actually happy because I'm excited because there's new stuff. So that's where novelty came from. Video games, I think. One of the first examples of it. Galaga. And then this was something that I saw, and this is a bit difficult, but so there's the Coolidge effect, and if you know about it, you'll fucking groan. But it's this whole thing, right, where humans and novelty is really super hardwired in an evolutionary sense. Very specifically for human libido. Because we're going there. This is where this comes from. President Coolidge and Mrs. Coolidge were being shown around an experimental government farm, separately, of course. When Ms. Coolidge came to the chicken yard, she noticed a rooster was mating very frequently, and she was like, fucking hell, how often does that happen? And the attendant was like, dozens of times every day. And she said, tell that to the president when he comes by. Obviously, disparaging her husband. Then he came around, he goes, but is it the same hen every time? And he goes, no, it's a different hen every time. And he goes, tell that to Mrs. Coolidge. So that's like a funny anecdote, but it's basically novelty in partners is a big thing for libido. And that literally, like, funny as that is, that does track to experience. That does track to hunger. That does track to, like, general dopamine release in human stuff. I'm sure everyone's
Can't eat the same Ben and Jerry's flavor
exactly
every day of the week.
Yeah. So, yeah, you need to...
There's definitely like a PG-13 version of this anecdote that's just me eating ice cream or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
oh, boy.
Oh, there was a version of this where there were rats they tried this out on. They had one male rat and I think it was 5 female rats in heat. And he went as long as he could.
Happy rat.
He went as long as he could. And then he was exhausted and he was like, I'm done. Fuck this. And they weren't done, but he was done. And obviously, you know, you find that hard to believe, whatever. But despite the fact he was completely done, completely exhausted, he was lying down going, would you fuck off, please?
No toothpaste left in the tube. Stop squeezing. Help.
Yeah, he's done, right? Then they introduced a new female into the pan. He's like, oh, fuck, yep, let's go.
Back in the saddle.
Let's go, yep. So there's like evolutionary like reasons for that. Obviously, because of, you know, you want to spread your seed, et cetera, et cetera. But all of that like properly tracks to humans. I know, yeah, that tracks to humans. It also triggers when this is...
I wonder if that experiment would get past the fucking ethics committee.
Definitely not. No, specifically, this is supposedly something about... This triggers in male humans when females change their appearance. So the barbershop is OP. That's what I say.
Whoa.
But yeah. So
then why are men consistently oblivious that their significant other has got a haircut and then they get in trouble because they didn't fucking notice because they're fucking stupid men?
I think it's mostly because they're stupid men.
That would do it.
Probably that. But it's like, it's all of this stuff is all super tied to dopamine, which is, people say it's like the pleasure thing. It's not really true. It's like...
It's more motivation. It's more saying this will be a motivating thing.
Yeah, this will be a motivating thing, right? And it's also linked to like brain health and perception of time. And it improves learning because of dopamine triggers and stuff like that. It's exactly why you go through that experience of, I've been playing World of Warcraft. Nothing's new about this. Everything like blurs together, blends together. And that's automation. That's routine. That's doing the same thing over and over again.
So is a new Mythic Plus affix a new haircut?
That's
what they want it to be.
It has the potential to be.
Yeah.
But that's for a subset of players who enjoy the novelty within that game system, within that game mode. For most people who engage with World of Warcraft in like the more, in a different way too, hyper gameplay optimization, they'll be like, this is not new, this is the same, fuck you. And that's very much what I feel like a lot of the time. It's like, this isn't new. It's the same shit. It's like, I guess it's the effect of, instead of a change of appearance, this is like, I guess, you know, no haircut difference. Maybe bangs are cut or something. Or it's like you went from someone's went from dark red to slightly less dark red hair color or something in terms of the changing appearance analogy. But that's the thing. Well, the reason why some of us have so many alts, because that's a novel experience of how you experience the game, right? Yeah. That's novelty. That's something new. That's why you go like, okay, maybe I will really enjoy Mythic Plus this time if I do it on a different class. It's like, no. You get a little hit of, oh, this is better now. Because you're on the class. And then you go, it's the same fucking routine. Yeah. It's the same routine. I'm driving a different car to work, but I'm still driving to work. And I've done that every day for the past, whenever Shadowlands released. And that's the problem. And that's all links into automation and routine and stuff like that. And dopamine, burnout, overactivity, all that stuff that people are talking about today. Which, in terms of life advice, is put your fucking phone away. Sit quietly for a couple hours a day, stuff like that. But to actually talk about World of Warcraft for fucking change, the idea here is that World of Warcraft lost that novelty, right? When's the last time you logged into World of Warcraft and felt something new? Obviously the patch is out, so it's a bit unfair. But that's the idea of most of it is largely just, it's the same, right? Yeah. It's the same, but they've tried to take all of the effort that they put into giving you novelty, giving you new content, giving you new emergent kind of stuff, and more things to do, like in Legion, where you had loads of things to do. You had loads of different class halls to do. You had loads of different, like, even the questing experience of different professions was there, and they felt kind of there. All of that has now been kind of pushed into the, like I said, the Diabloification of do the same thing again, but there's some subtle changes, and that's not enough to trigger people's like novelty response.
Yeah.
Or it seems to be that way. It's definitely not in me. I'm not the biggest novelty seeker, but it's definitely like it's not enough to do that for me.
Whenever you brought this up to me earlier,
Yeah.
I didn't know that it would be this segment, but now I did. The first thing that came to my head was, would I rather play 1,000 hours of PUBG or WoW Endgame? And I said PUBG. And the reason here is, yes, in WoW, let's just say it's Mythic Plus primarily. Okay, so you got all the dungeons to do, but soon enough they'll all feel the same.
Yeah.
And, you got the different affixes, but they won't change it that much. With PUBG, and this is why that game has been just stayed there near the top of Steam for so long, or, put in Apex or any Battle Royale. It's because of the emergent storytelling and how in that there's like 100 players, a massive map, it could all go differently. There are so many different things that can happen. There's a specific PUBG match that I remember from like 6 years ago. It's the one like we end up in a field. I know the houses are there. I remember how we fucking advanced through a tree line. I literally remember this from like 6 years ago because it was one of those matches that you just got the experience of novelty in so well because you're throwing 100 players in with all these different variables. The randomness of where the circle goes. So much there.
Yeah.
And I guess you could even say that with how a big MOBA like changes and advances. Where I guess like in WoW, you don't regularly get new heroes or new champions to play. It happens every like 4, 5, 6 years. And yeah, the dungeons change. But a lot of things feel the same. Like it's okay, this is an interrupt thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get, sure, the mob looks like that, has this narrative context or that narrative context, but it all starts to feel very similar. So the, insane amount of, different results that you can get from, a Battle Royale format of game to a Diablo-ified World of Warcraft dungeon loop, it's way more in this direction, not the WoW direction. I think that's how it ends up feeling like mush to people.
Yeah, because it's not enough to, and that's the thing. I tried to look for this, but I couldn't really figure anything out in terms of
RimWorld's
research.
Good example too.
Yeah, I mean RimWorld. Even I know the friend of mine loves playing Project Zomboid and playing really different playstyles all the time. Even because I say the Diabloification, right? But that's the thing where that's the gameplay experience of doing rifts and stuff over and over again, or doing the same thing but a higher difficulty level. Kind of is, but a friend of mine who loves PoE will have builds and very novel, unique builds that drastically change how he approaches that gameplay.
Yeah.
And that's where the kind of novelty element comes into that and makes it feel different enough that it is actually different. Even though you can kind of enjoy the base experience, it's still going to get repetitive. You kind of try new things, you play new things, and that's what makes it feel better. Obviously, Battle Royales are destroying the likes of arena shooters.
Totally.
And I think a lot of that might just be because novelty, literally brain go happy, this happy now because of the dopamine release of this is a new experience or a largely new experience. Obviously you're playing you're playing something a little less storytelling, something I guess maybe a little bit more Apexy than PUBG, and maybe the skill and mastery stuff kind of offsets that a little bit. But in Splitgate, every game's going to feel largely the same. Same with Halo. There'll be small differences, but not major differences. So it's I feel like that's the thing that World of Warcraft is largely kind of failing because they look at engagement. And they look at playtime, right? They look at engagement. Look, how many dungeons have these people done? Not how much fun have these people had today? Because you can't fucking measure that. I mean, maybe you can, but you would need a webcam with IR to watch their heart rate or something. And I don't think that's a good idea. Because that's a thing where everything is repetitive if you play enough. If the game is fun and right, if the game is fun and right now WoW doesn't hit the fun part. Yes and no. novelty can be a part of enjoying the game. You can enjoy for like the flow state stuff. You can enjoy playing the game really well, and I'm not disparaging anyone who does and saying that people who like Mythic Plus are wrong. I'm just saying novelty is one part of the enjoyment spectrum, and I think it's a substantially bigger part of the enjoyment spectrum for World of Warcraft for a lot of players than the game likes to pretend in a way. I think so anyway.
Different people have different weightings.
Exactly.
And the people who, like, if you always play Mythic Plus and you really enjoy that, we couldn't use you as the only sample, the only sample, because there'd be like a selection bias in purely only sampling you. Does not mean that your experience is invalid whatsoever. It does mean, though, that there are other people where there are things that you don't mind, but they do mind. And what's important is how do we keep you happy and also keep them happy?
Yeah.
That's the core struggle.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm kind of thinking about this from my perspective of like, I really enjoyed I got into flow more in Legion. Maybe that's because Mythic Plus itself was novel. That's not.
That's part of it.
Maybe. Something like that. But do you have it up there? Yeah, so there's this is the thing of engagement, right? I think engagement from the gameplay style of thing is very fun, right? So this is the chart of flow. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of flow in psychology, where you're kind of, time passes, you are super focused, hyper focused on playing the game. It feels really fun. You come out, you're sweating. You're like, oh, how long was that? It was 40 minutes. Oh shit, that was really fun. You enjoy that process. Get it working, you get it cleaning, you get it working out, you get it whatever. I think it's like whenever people lie on this chart for the skill level versus challenge, whenever they're in arousal, flow, control, or relaxation, people will enjoy World of Warcraft. But for people who don't really like challenge very much, or aren't very good, or don't want to be good, because there's obviously that's like a relatively fine for a Mythic Plus kind of higher skill game mode with like a cap on it, or like an unending cap that goes up.
Yeah.
It's like people who will naturally find themselves in the right hand of that graph will be able to play it over and over again. But for people who don't really enjoy the higher end of that challenge and end up playing Mythic Plus, but they end up playing in the low to medium challenge and the low to medium skill, then that's where they're going to be like, fuck this. And that's the part of the game, those are the players that need the novelty or the other content or the something else for them. But I think that's where a lot of that will be, just give them something cool to do. Give them something new to do every once in a while that'll spike their dopamine and go, oh, this is new. Great, fantastic. I've had that. And that's the part where that's the harder thing to do, I think, in terms of resources. Every game developer in the world nearly has moved towards aiming for repetition and engagement. That's because it's easier and cheaper in the short term.
Think about how fucking expensive games like ours are to make.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also a funny thing. People think 2D's cheap. 2D with lots of novelty is not cheap. And that's why one of the useful things about like it's our first game is, it's set in the snow, and that's really useful. And same if you set a game in space, you can really focus on awesome backgrounds and skyboxes and awesome ships, but a lot of things are very helpful. That's why EVE Online looks fucking beautiful, right? And I suppose that's the problem. Whenever you have just to make these richly detailed game spaces and all of that, it's so fucking expensive. It's so hard.
For sure, yeah.
Content is really, it is just expensive. And then the way that you get way more game time out of a smaller number of people is affixes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really hard challenge to make those affixes and then balance all of those affixes and stuff. But in terms of like pure, the way there's some problems that scale with headcount and others don't. And like there's some aspects of problem solving that, you need the correct size of the correct team size of very competent people. And the more, there's programming challenges where if you double the team size, it'll probably be slower or it'll blow up in its face.
There's a whole bit of research into that, yeah.
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 So hard.
Yeah.
Hard problems for companies.
Yeah, and as Marquez said, I don't think Microsoft is going to stop ABK from trying to appease the largest population anytime soon. That's not what anyone's advocating for. I'm not saying get rid of Mythic Plus, throw it in the bin, fuck that, make loads of content instead. I mean, it's a case of Blizzard, if they can't keep the players who don't like Mythic Plus and want the novelty kind of aspect, if they want to keep those appeased, they will need to either divert resources or add more resources and try to strike more of a balance. Because I think that's kind of the thing of just that's everyone just looked at Diablo. Everyone looked at the end game of ARPGs. They looked at the World of Warcraft needs an end game that'll satisfy skilled players. And then just super focused on that and lost sight of the fact that people liked World of Warcraft for new experiences.
And that is why I enjoyed. Here's the thing. 9.2.5 made me happy in the way that an FF14 update makes me happy.
Yeah.
I hopped in, I had some cool novel experiences and these new quest things, and I hopped out, and I left feeling happy.
Yep.
Is that not a win? Now, I have more to do. Like, as an example, what I want to do now is I actually, because this MacBook now does WoW on the M1 chip, and it runs super well, and because World of Warcraft now supports console port, it supports the console controllers. So I hooked this up, big 65-inch TV, which I think it was 20%. I think it was like 600 quid or something, which, yeah.
Sorry, what?
In the world that I was used to, the TV that I have, I would have assumed it would be like $1,500 or something. That was like 600 quid. And it's got like the nice like backlighting thing. So just leveling a Dark Iron Dwarf slowly, just relaxed on the gamepad. And there's very obviously multiple layers of novelty to that experience. But eventually I want to go get that the new heritage armor and all the jazz, and probably I want to level my Blood Elf up to do the Blood Elf quest line. But like those things are just like nice little novel bits of content, and that just has meant the world for how I've perceived this patch now that I'm done with it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing where I haven't done any of the 9.2.5 quests because I've been playing Diablo Immortal for the Wednesday and Thursday, so I'll probably play something this weekend. Well, I need to hit 35 in Classic so me and Jared can go do Deathless.
Oh, shit.
Deathless.
Me and him did a podcast on the Valley of Bones. It's out now. He fucking loves the Valley of Bones.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah, great stuff. So I feel like that's what they're kind of missing, but they're getting it back. A little bit through those quests that maybe would have expected. Well, I mean, would we have expected those 9.2.5 quests in... Well, I suppose a 9.1.5 is not really a fair comparison. Is that the kind of thing we would have expected before? Or like even like the BFA 8.3.5 or whatever?
No, not typically.
Not really,
this is more than we would have normally got. And then as you said here, it's encrypted. And that means...
That's huge. Yeah,
it's huge for the experience of novelty.
Yep, because it's actually more novel because you don't know what's happening as opposed to every other time before. Well, that's even the case for me personally. There's a lot of this patch won't be novel because I've talked through it today.
Yeah, that's why I saw stuff happen in Twitter and I thought, okay, I guess a good thing I couldn't sleep last night. Servers just went up. Yeah. I will now play this.
Yeah, it's
which is very important to how.
Yeah, bit of an occupational hazard, but that's the thing. It's like the story happens in WoW, happens on YouTube. That's a problem for a novelty approach. Yeah. And this is the thing where like I realize now that after going through this, there's a lot of stuff I've said that's like, yeah, but we all know that's a problem. We all know that's the problem with the game. We all know these are solutions. Of course they need more horizontal content. Don't be fucking stupid. But I think it's like I like to have more, I guess, a foundation to build on for like the player experience of like, no, this is why this stuff is needed. This is literally what's going to help from the, I guess from a scientific perspective, what's going to literally help. So even if this is, I mean, obviously it's not going to happen, right? But if a Blizzard developer was watching this for whatever reason or saw a clip and was like, novelty, that's something we haven't been thinking about because it's clearly, I looked for, maybe there's a bunch of like game design resources that aren't super publicly available and they all have like cabals of resources that they talk about with each other, which they almost
GDC Vault.
Yeah, they almost certainly do, but like looking through stuff, I couldn't find much resource for novelty in game design, right?
I think it's like weird. It's a given.
Yeah.
But it's the realities of actually building the game that strip the novelty away. And it just becomes an exercise of getting as much as we can. Yeah. And I think that's why we end up having these forms of systemic novelty for super progression and gameplay oriented people, which then isn't great for a lot of us who are more experience driven players.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing. It would be very nice if people had the understanding and tools to go, oh yeah, actually, that's a good thing to think about. That's a good way to frame how this feels to people. Which is obviously, I don't want to say I'm trying to help the designers do their job, but it's a little bit of, this is just stuff I thought it was interesting, honestly. I hope also, especially, I think the idea of you watching and hopefully understanding why you like or dislike certain things better is also kind of good, I think.
Yeah.
This stuff's important.
If you've been wondering why you haven't enjoyed a game for ages, maybe thinking about this, you're like, oh wait, that makes sense.
Yeah, have I
Now it's time for me to try something else.
Yep.
It's ran its course, and this has made that evident. Yeah, a good example. World Quest and stuff is like, oh, yawn, boring. I'm like number one, leading the charge for saying that. But if it's World Quests where there's, the dragon riding is involved as the form of locomotion, and there's a few more things going on, well, that has now sort of transformed how the overall content experience feels to be a bit more novel, and that'll be good for people. So, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, they encrypt the A plot.
That's really...
Just give us character templates. Keep the side quests there or something. Let it just give us character templates for testing and get your own internal QA to do the A plot. Because no one would give a fuck about Endwalker if it was on beta and all the lore came out. No one. There'd be some people who'd be really good at avoiding spoilers. But the overall community swell would be diminished. And Blizzard has to be able to get some of that in this next expansion.
This is going to be a weird comparison, right? But the whole Netflix binge release debate?
Yeah.
There's especially people in the not that it's one community anymore because it's so big, it's massively fragmented, but over in the land of anime, people are really resentful towards Netflix for dropping season 1 of the newest JoJo stuff at once, because that, like, the way that show is generally released, like weekly and planned weekly and made weekly, historically that has been fucking amazing for discussion. There were so many like, fuck, what's going to happen next week? How are they going to win this fight? What's this person's stand going to do? What is this stand? It's very much like mystery setup. It's great for binging, like as an experience, because you get the answer right away. Like, oh, class, great. But discussion's just killed.
Yeah. Because
it's all just out there. And then people are like, we don't care because we know it all.
Does The Boys all come out in one day?
I think so, yeah. I think it's all out in one day. Well, it said The Boys available now and didn't say anything else, so yeah. No?
So The Boys episode 1 and 2 come out today. Episode 3 comes out the 3rd of June. That's also today.
Time get it re.
Yeah. Season 4 is the 10th of June. So they're doing a big initial release and then they're going into the schedule. Yeah,
so this isn't to argue for time getting or anything. What I'm saying is everyone having access to the entire story at this kind of one period and not like playing through it themselves and experiencing the pacing of it at their own rate, especially because that's what happens when it's on beta. It's all just dumped straight away.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, okay, there it is. We're done. It's all there. But if people actually play through it, they kind of have a little bit of more of that going on. So that's just a thing to think about in terms of the community understanding and feeling of it all, I guess. Encrypt everything, please.
Yeah, as much as possible.
Don't even fucking give us an alpha. No, please do.
It'll be a big challenge to see if they can keep that content encrypted. I really hope they can. We'll have to see.